How long has she been down? Do you have any idea?
Any more than about 20 minutes.
Okay.
This was Jimmy Allan, the man who had just found his wife hanging in the basement in the most horrific way imaginable. At first glance, it looked like a tragic situation, but beneath the surface lay dark motives, chilling clues,
I don't know what to do, Mom. I don't know what to do.
and suspicious details that would change everything.
Immediately do that and started, check for a pulse.
Feet off the ground?
Yeah.
This video contains exclusive footage revealing details that the public has never seen before, until now on Mysterious 7.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
My wife tried to kill herself. She's in the basement.
How is she trying to kill herself?
She tried to hang herself. I ran down there. I pulled her off.
Okay, does she have a noose around her neck right now, or?
She did. I pulled her off. She had a fencing cord.
Somebody
Pulled her
call.
off. I tried to get her CPR.
After receiving the call, police quickly rushed to the crime scene in Tecumseh, Michigan.
Police department. Police department.
Oh, help
Yes.
me.
The officer followed the screams to the basement and found the 911 caller James, also known as Jimmy Allan, giving CPR to Amy Allan, his wife.
How long has she been down? Do you have any idea?
Any more than about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Soon after, EMTs arrived, and it was a heart-wrenching sight, especially with Jimmy losing control. However, the police still needed to get to the bottom of what had really happened.
You want to come upstairs with me real quick? Okay. Did she make any statements at all?
Jimmy recounted that they went to Embers, a local bar, for a couple of drinks after dropping off their daughter, Ashley Allan, at a high school football game. It was at this bar that a heated argument erupted over their move to North Carolina, one that would be their last.
I was just irritated and I didn't hear anything, so I went back down and checked on her and she's
Does Amy have a history of mental illness or anything like this? Nothing in her background at all.
Ever.
This was a crucial claim, given Jimmy's statement that Amy had taken her own life by hanging. However, he insisted there was absolutely no signs of any mental illness. Soon, Jimmy called their daughter Ashley to inform her, and then his mother to deliver the dreadful news.
We had an emergency. Don't go anywhere. Oh, I don't know what to do, Mom. I don't know what to do.
It was a heartbreaking moment for Jimmy, but Amy wasn't gone yet. She stayed on life support, and there was still a possibility to know her side of the story. However, before the police could get any answers from Amy, there was something else they needed to confront, and they didn't plan on waiting long. The very next day, Michigan State Police detectives returned to the Allan residence, searched the house, and questioned Jimmy, who had just returned home from the hospital with his mother and daughter.
Are you the husband? Okay. Right now, due to the nature of everything, with it being a hanging and all that, we've got to do some further investigating. So we're not going to be able to let you guys go inside right now.
We slept right here overnight.
I understand.
At 5 o'clock.
You didn't go up to the hospital?
Yeah, we were there and they told us that she's not going to make it. The neurologist went like 4 a.m. said she's not going to make it as a formality, that they have to do another test 12 hours later and that there's nothing they can do. And I don't want to just go sit at the hospital for hours on end. It's horrific.
When he learned he couldn't go inside the house, he tried to convince the officers that he had nowhere to go, appearing almost restless.
I couldn't sleep. I just lay there. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face hanging there. I didn't know there was any investigation or anything going on.
Well, and again, I'm not saying like that anybody had done anything wrong.
That's irrelevant.
But hold on.
I've already been here all night.
Sure.
Like we get out here at 5 a.m. and left at like 9 or 10. I don't understand what the urgency is now.
What do you mean?
I'm not understanding if you guys are conducting an investigation, wouldn't it be immediately following what went down? I don't, like, where am I supposed to go? What are we supposed, this is my home. I have nothing else. I don't even have a life.
Jimmy had only just realized that an investigation was underway, yet his questions to the police seemed to focus more on regaining access to his home than on what had happened to Amy.
But if, let's say, on the flip side, let's say that somebody did do something bad on the other side of town, and we let them go in and we go away, for us to do, would it make sense to you that that person would maybe have time to alter things?
I told you I just spent.
I understand.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense to me now that you're denying me access after the fact.
Okay.
Maybe you want to check me and see if I have defensive wounds or some shit? I mean, what are you saying?
Jimmy couldn't shake the feeling that the police were suspecting him, even though they hadn't said anything to suggest it.
You're not, let's be clear, you're not being accused of anything whatsoever.
Did you guys take her phone?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. The detail, like I said.
It was like, I got back this morning and I looked on, I turned her computer on to see if there's any messages or trying to piece together what the hell would urge her to do something like that. And
Jimmy claimed he had called 911 from Amy's phone, but couldn't remember where he had left it. The officer noted that they might have Amy's phone, but sounded doubtful. Frustration was evident on Jimmy's face, yet there were still more questions to be answered. To continue the conversation, they moved to the backyard, where Jimmy went over the timeline of events, almost in too much detail. Around 7:30 a.m., Amy sent Ashley off to school. Jimmy left for work, came home for lunch, and then took a nap.
We were at JR's. We started having an argument, disagreement about life. I've just come back from a 3-day work trip Thursday night at 9. I've been up since 3:30 in the morning. I've been training for a marathon. I ran 10 miles that morning, then went at 6 a.m. and worked through till 9 p.m. at night. And got a ride back here at 9. Went to bed, had to be back to work at 8 to shoot a build video. My boss, Cedar, let me off at noon. Basically slept kind of in and out all day on the bed. Ashley had a friend over, Kayla, after school. 6:30, we rolled out to take them to the game at 7. They wanted to get there a little early. We went to Embers, started talking about the rest of our lives and how we're going to do this, that, and the other. And she said a couple of times that, that's not going to work. And she's normally positive and was sort of down and negative, and we started to disagree about it, and she's like, I hope that works out for you. And I'm like, what do you mean, me? I'm talking about our life.
Jimmy said that after their heated argument at the bar, they left without another word. He got into his truck while Amy walked home. At 7:51 p.m., a security camera caught her walking away from the bar, heading down the dimly lit street alone.
7:38, we finished our beers, or I cashed out. I went to walk out the back door. She was behind me, and I just pushed it open like that, walked through, and I was just ticked, we both were just miffed at each other. Started walking to the truck. I look over, and she's walking across the street like, F this guy, I'm just gonna walk home. And so I was like, fine, just drive on, we're can hit JRs. So came home, started watching a show, laying in the bed there in the master, Jim Carrey on Showtime. I turned that on and watched part of it, and it was shit. And I was like,
Jimmy seemed oddly focused on unnecessary details.
Saw her come in, slam the door, walk upstairs. She walked downstairs with a purse. I'm like, what the hell are you doing in the basement? Right in the basement. She goes, the only reason that I would have walked home is because you slammed that door in my face. And I go, I didn't slam it, I just didn't hold it for you, And
Jimmy explained that after failing to find anything to watch on TV, he went downstairs to make amends with Amy, only to find her in a terrifying state.
Walked down there and she's just hanging there, and I didn't know how long. At that time, I hadn't assessed how long have I been away from the basement. I just immediately like picked her up like that, and then I tried to one hand hold her and grab the thing off of her neck, and it was just too tight for me to. I was just, wasn't able to do it. And then I grabbed her up and tried setting her on the Michigan basement edge a couple times to take the thing off so I could get it. I was just so panicked, I'm screaming and stuff like that. And I look up and it's on like an open one of those. You can see it down there hanging from that. So it's like a hook like this. So I was able to grab the actual cord, lift her up and grab it off of there, and then let her fall to the ground, and immediately do that and started, check for a pulse.
Jimmy mentioned that he had picked her up off the ground in an attempt to save her, and this immediately caught the officer's attention. Now, this piece of information could alter the entire course of the investigation.
Were her feet off the ground?
Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, I assume so. When I glanced down there, I saw there looked like a upturned kitty litter pail.
Huh.
Because I'm like, like I said, it was just so,
Sure.
I mean, I didn't even know. It just didn't even. I couldn't even process it, and it took me, 3 or 4 seconds just to what is going on.
Yeah.
The officers also had questions about Amy's mental health, wondering if there were any signs that they might have missed.
Ever tried anything like this before?
I've never had anything ever, no mental instability. We live a healthy lifestyle. We work out. We go rock climbing 3 times a week in Ann Arbor. We cook meals at home. We grow our own vegetables out here. She's not on any medications. None of us have psychologists, psychiatrists,
right?
Money trouble. No, I mean this is like the pinnacle of best job I've ever had. I make great money. She's a stay-at-home mom. That's the. Here's a picture of her. This is 6:06. Well, she's eating a massive burrito right before we go out. We left at 6:30. So I didn't want any more beer. Anyways, I wasn't even going to get the cake because I was so full. She knew me, the burrito, and I was like, how are you even drinking beer? It wasn't even a pleasant, I wasn't getting a buzz or anything because I'm so full.
Sure.
I was all that coming in with me being exhausted and cranky and her being short. It was just turned into kind of a shit night that was like, I'm just going to call it and go.
Yeah.
And, anytime, we've been married 15 years. I got married when I was 20.
Yeah, it's not all.
I mean, we've had our bumps and ups and downs.
Everyone has.
But we've always just walked it off, and just keep on going. And there's never been any physical anything between either one of us. There's never been anything where they're shouting and screaming, in 15 years like you would expect. I'm sure you're married and you've done your full share of bickering.
Uh-huh.
So,
yep.
I mean...
So, because I don't know, as you folks, was that argument excessive, or was it from some arguments you've had prior? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah. In general, it wasn't even it was like it wasn't even be a bicker. That was he was like, you're just like him, and it was like, whoa, okay. That's sort of what brought the whole, I'm like, this job, I signed a 2-year contract. I was like, I'll hang tight at this job through graduation. And this is not going to be something I retire from.
To understand more, officers then questioned their teenage daughter, Ashley. She went with her father and grandmother while answering the police.
Well, first, I'm extremely sorry, okay? I had no idea what you could be going through. Were your mom and dad fighting at all yesterday that you recall?
No, everything was normal when I left.
When you left? Okay. Is there a history of the fighting or arguing or anything like that? Nothing ever? Okay. All right. Has your mom ever talked about being depressed or, wanting to hurt herself or anything like that? Never ever? Has she ever told you about anybody wanting to hurt her? Nothing like that? Okay.
Ashley, however, gave the same answers as Jimmy. The interview with Amy's family offered little to no information, not even enough to confirm if she had truly taken her own life. The police found themselves with no leads, and the only person who could provide the answers was Amy herself. But heartbreakingly, that door also had closed. She stayed on life support for 3 agonizing days, with her family gathered around her in the hospital. Then, on September 17, 2018, Amy tragically passed away at the age of 34. Amy was gone. But the reason behind her death seemed a mystery. The investigation was just starting, and soon everything everyone thought they knew was about to be turned upside down.
We went to the Tecumseh Police Department and spoke with them to let them know our thoughts and feelings and to find out what had happened from their eyes, their point of view.
You're going to ask me to believe that my daughter would have done that, left her daughter that she adored. That's not what happened. I don't believe it.
The investigation had just begun, yet Jimmy had already moved to Ocala, Florida with his daughter. Ironically, this was the place where Amy and Jimmy had first met. Detectives needed to understand Amy's past to fill the gaps in the story. Before meeting Jimmy, Amy had gotten pregnant at 13 and had a son, Caleb, with another man. According to her family, Jimmy had isolated her from them, even from Caleb, who at 17 had moved out of the house due to the toxic environment created by Jimmy.
So if I would get in trouble at school, their way of punishing me was I needed to sit on my bed and stare at the wall all day and night. I could come out to use the bathroom and to eat food. And I just said, I can't take it anymore.
In a later interview, Caleb revealed to detectives not only the mental stress he endured with Jimmy, but also how Jimmy belittled Amy. Jimmy's control over the family ran deep.
This was on, I believe, a Saturday. We had a bunch of cats. One of the cats had pooped outside the litter box, and he called and was cursing my mother out on the phone, and he called her a cunt. A couple days later, she was not in the house again. My sister was in her room. We were in the living room. And I said, well, there's just some things you do that bother me. And he said, what would that be? And I said, for instance, how you called my mother a over the phone. And he got very angry with me. And I can't remember, but I think, don't you ever say some stuff like that again. And I was in a computer chair. I turned away from him, and I curled up into a ball in the chair with my hands behind my head, and he struck me twice in the back of the head.
These details were shocking to say the least. However, whether they were driven by emotions or based on facts remained uncertain. All these suspicions would be soon tested if they could access Amy's phone, and they did. Once detectives gained access, they confirmed her family's claims of isolation. But what they found next was even more intriguing. A secret lover, George. Texts exchanged over 3 years painted a different picture of Amy's mental state.
She was planning, meals and holidays and vacations. And obviously with George, she was planning to meet up with George the next month.
They were all very positive. She was a completely different person when she talked to George. She was happy. She was optimistic.
Detectives also discovered that according to the CCTV footage from the bar, the last person Amy spoke to was George. However, the most unsettling detail of all was that Jimmy had been tracking Amy's every move, including where she traveled. This made it clear that Amy's secret lover was likely no secret to him anymore. It raised suspicions that Jimmy might have been waiting for the right moment to strike after learning about George. Everything was starting to come to light, but the key to solving this mystery lay solely with Jimmy. About a month after Amy's death, Jimmy returned to Michigan. He was called for an interview to provide him with a chance to reveal anything he knew, whether about Amy, their past, or George. But first, he had some old guilt to confess.
That wasn't so inner focused and self-focused. Maybe I could have seen some things that were going on that maybe could have clued me in what my wife was in so much turmoil that I couldn't even see it. My wife essentially took her own life and she killed me too. I mean, that's how it feels. Like I don't even know who I am.
During the initial questioning, Jimmy claimed that Amy was happy and showed no signs of distress. But what he revealed next caught everyone off guard, contradicting his own words.
Now, where you're at now, does anything pop out at you?
Yeah, my wife had some issues. And,
what kind of issues?
she struggled from social anxiety, so which she's been like that for years. She's just extremely shy, introverted person.
As the interview unfolded, Jimmy admitted to a dark secret of his own act of betrayal.
There was one time when I went to the Isle of Man and hooked up with this chick.
Anytime during your marriage, do you know if she was unfaithful to you?
I don't think that would be possible.
Why is that?
She didn't seem to have the capacity to talk to people, man. I mean, she was incredibly introverted.
The detectives saw their chance and took it, asking if he knew about Amy's cheating all along. Jimmy froze. The question hit harder than he expected.
What was your knowledge of her affair?
I don't think she had an affair. I have no idea. I wouldn't think it was possible.
There's a lot of stuff that she had tried to delete there, but I mean, we're talking, telling this other guy she loves him.
I think that you
I'm not gonna lie to you today, and I haven't. So
I'll just tell you right now, I don't believe it.
This time, the detectives' claims weren't hypothetical. Instead, they had physical proof of the wicked deed.
Clearly, there's something going on between these two people.
Right. Can you pull phone records to see if there's any numbers that I could see that I don't recognize? To me, it's crushing to think that she even has some. I legitimately, I still just don't all the way believe you guys.
The betrayal seemed like a hard pill for him to swallow. His reaction left the detectives questioning if he was involved in Amy's death at all. The autopsy report arrived in December 2018, around 3 months after Amy's death. Still unclear whether it pointed to a homicide or something far darker. Amy's fingernails held no trace of Jimmy's DNA, ruling him out as the immediate suspect. On top of that, Jimmy showed no signs of a struggle, no defensive wounds, no marks, nothing to tie him to a violent encounter with Amy. But there were a few red flags that screamed uncertain behavior. The first was Jimmy's behavior when police and paramedics arrived. Oddly, there were no tears, no visible signs of distress until the officers made their presence known.
When he's up in the kitchen talking to his parents, he's got his face covered. And as soon as I would direct him to ask him a question, he would turn, the emotions turned off, just like a light switch.
The second came moments later when an EMT rushed in announcing that Amy still had a faint pulse. Jimmy's reaction wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of relief, it stirred suspicion.
Huh?
What? Says she's fighting.
No.
Hospital staff also found James's reaction strange when the neurologist told him at 4 a.m. that Amy likely wouldn't survive. He showed no emotion and left an hour later with Ashley. Above all, there was one obvious issue, a clear hole in Jimmy's story. He kept saying that he found his wife hanging from a cord. But there was a problem. The basement ceiling was too low for Amy's feet not to touch the ground. And to make things worse, the cord showed no signs of ever holding the weight of a human body. It was as if the scene had been staged, and Jimmy never expected anyone to notice. Later, a pathologist, after reviewing the police reports and Amy's autopsy, concluded that it was most likely a case of homicide. In 2021, just as Jimmy was preparing to move on and remarry in sunny Ocala, He was arrested on the basis of multiple charges against him, yet his behavior remained anything but normal.
Do you want to talk to us? No? Okay. Do you have any questions for us? No? Okay. Well, I guess we're all set then. That was quick. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of us, or they can contact us. Okay?
Just how do you sleep at night?
Well, I guess I don't understand that question. You have some serious soul searching to do, because I will tell you this much. You're being charged with open murder right now. And murder, or someone causing the death of someone else, has a wide range, kind of they have different forms, okay? From manslaughter all the way up to first-degree murder. And I can tell you this much, sir. Science has proven that you were responsible. So you can deny it. Any denial on your part is a lie, okay? Understand this. Your side of the story goes a long way in deciding whether it's first-degree murder all the way down to manslaughter. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, you're looking at open murder. So you get with your attorney, you figure it out, understand this. Science has proven that you're responsible. Okay? So you don't want to talk? We'll leave it at that. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. We're shutting off the recorder. The time is 10:25.
On September 9th, 2021, 3 years after Amy's death, Jimmy was called to stand trial for Amy's murder. The defense came prepared. They argued that Jimmy had been watching shows when Amy died. They even cited a respected pathologist who claimed Amy's death was consistent with suffocation from hanging. But the most unsettling twist came when Amy's own daughter took the stand and gave a statement about her mother's behavior that didn't match what she had told the police before.
Did you notice anything from your vantage point that was a problem, that behaviors or issues that you saw when your mom was drinking alcohol?
Two things, yes. My mother overindulged in alcohol frequently, and she became intoxicated very easily and frequently as well, which would cause her to be not herself at all. She would be meaner and more violent.
These were just a few of the issues she mentioned, along with Amy's isolation and the strange behavior along with being intoxicated and abusive towards her family. But her claim that Amy was never her ideal mother was heartbreaking for everyone. But the prosecution pushed back, calling first responders and neighbors to testify about Jimmy's unsettling reaction that night. The judge reviewed the body cam footage, watching closely as Jimmy's behavior appeared anything but normal. One officer testified that what struck him the most was Amy's neck, which showed no clear signs of choking.
I really didn't see any sort of the typical injuries around the neck that I normally would have seen in a hanging.
No visible injuries.
No visible injuries. In your training and experience, having dealt with many suicides, is that strike you as odd?
It was a red flag.
A disturbing pattern soon emerged. Whenever Jimmy lost his temper, he had a tendency to choke the other person. He had a history with mixed martial arts, having taken classes in the past. He allegedly also used a move called the rear naked choke on Caleb, leaving the boy struggling to breathe. Caleb took the stand and testified about a past fight where Jimmy had done exactly that.
I was choked from behind on the floor for multiple seconds. It felt like forever during the incident, and I was gasping for air, grabbing for anything, trying to get away from him.
Soon after, George, Amy's secret lover, was brought in to give his account, who had been seeing her for quite a while then.
And was there an occasion where you came to know a person that you knew on the internet?
Yes. We spoke online often. We talked about life. We also, there was a little bit of sexual content. That's what we talked about.
Now, had you ever met Amy in person?
Yes, twice. I was here for work, and she had some free time, so she came to the hotel.
The things that happen at a hotel happen at that hotel?
Some things, yes.
Okay, sexual in nature?
Yes. I wrote, I love you. And I wrote, I want more of you. And she wrote, I love you too. I'm ready to spend time with you in person. And I wrote, good. let's do it. And then she wrote end of October, and I wrote I'm in.
The final and most devastating testimony came from Dr. Elizabeth Bucks, a forensic scientist. In court, she reenacted the exact scenario Jimmy had described. The investigation centered around a critical fact: whether the cord had genuinely been used to hang Amy or if it had been staged to conceal the truth. Dr. Bucks and her team recreated the scene with absolute precision. They used the same type of cord found at the scene, an object matching Amy's weight of 140 pounds, and adjusted for her exact height. The team even matched the basement's original measurements, including the ceiling height, and replicated the method of looping and tying the cord exactly as it had been found. She exposed a chilling truth. The basement was too small, and the cord had too much give.
Now the collapse. She touches the floor. The elongation is occurring.
The distance from the ceiling to the floor made it physically impractical to suspend someone of Amy's height. Moreover, the weight of her body should have left visible signs of trauma on her neck, yet no such marks were present, making it impossible for Amy to have hanged herself as he claimed.
The first question that Detective Rothman asked was, can an extension cord suspend 140 pounds? The testing was performed. The answer is no.
Despite the defense's repeated efforts, on the 8th day of the trial, the jury reached their verdict. The jury considered 2 charges: first-degree murder suggesting premeditation, and second-degree murder without the assumption of premeditation.
You do say upon your oaths that you find the defendant guilty of the lesser offense of second-degree murder.
Jimmy was sentenced to 20 to 45 years in prison, but it was his reaction that left the courtroom uneasy. A cold, distant expression, as if silently telling his family not to wait for him anymore. The final theory behind the murder suggested that Amy and Jimmy had a heated argument at the bar, where Amy stood up to him and humiliated him publicly. When they returned home, the fight escalated. Amy retreated to the basement, and it was there, in the midst of another confrontation, that Jimmy's chokehold turned deadly, leading to the horrifying outcome.
Billy, Jimmy's dad, called and said, basically, I got some bad news. Amy's dead. And I just broke down. I mean, it was crazy.
The sudden loss left Amy's family and friends devastated. To them, she was more than just a victim. She was a mother, a daughter, and a sister.